Right, the government is introducing legislation to better clarify the difference or the criteria for being a contractor rather than an employee. And I'm interested in the story because now that I run a business, I realise there is quite a difference between the two, and it makes a difference to things like your obligations under the Holidays Act, and might make a difference in a dispute whether someone is contracting to you or an employee, a full-time employee. So Brooke van Velden has been leading the charge on new legislation to deal with that. She joins us on the line now. Brooke, Minister, thank you very much indeed for coming onto the platform. Good morning, Sean. What is the precise problem that you are trying to solve here?
Well, what we're here to provide is more clarity and certainty for businesses and workers about the distinction between an employee and a contractor, because we know that there has been long-standing stress and anxiety out in the business community about providing people more opportunities in our economy and whether or not they'll be challenged later down the track. And we're wanting to give both people in the contract arrangement certainty from the get-go when they're signing that agreement, what it is they're actually signing up to. So we're creating a new test called a gateway test, which says if these 4 criteria are met, then it is a contract arrangement, which means you have to have a written agreement which actually sets out that it is an independent contract arrangement, that you're allowed to work for other people if you'd like to. You don't have to have set hours, but if there are going to be set hours, then you can subcontract out some of that work, and you can't be terminated for not wanting to take on an extra task outside of your standing agreement. Now, this doesn't change the existing law, but it adds to it.
All right, and all those things, when I look at them, well, apart from the written agreement, I guess that just formalises things. But the exclusivity, that's always something you expect from an employee, that they won't go and work for a competitor. I expect an employee to turn up, not to send someone else to do their job. That's the subcontracting thing. And what was the last one? What was point 4? Not wanting to do something that I asked them to. Well, I guess if I haven't contracted them, I don't have that. What's that clause? Other duties as reasonably could be expected by the employer. Does this do anything for the worker, though, Brooke, or is it all about reducing risk, stress and liability for the employer?
I think this is good for both the business owner and the worker, because in a number of cases, people don't have a written agreement. And so if they're wanting to know, hey, well, somebody's asked me to take on an extra task, but I don't actually think that's what I've signed up for, having things written down, I think, gives you that basic level of clarity. So this is good for being able to push back on what it is that you've signed up to. But I think it's also very important here that from the start of the relationship, both people signing up are given time to know what exactly it is that they're signing up to, which is not stipulated under the current laws for contract law. So I think this provides that balance of certainty of letting everybody know, actually, I know from the start that I am an independent contractor, which means I'm less likely to be found as an employee down the track.
Will it make it easier for people to be contractors or for people to hire contractors? And is that part of the desire?
No, I don't actually think it will change much in terms of people wanting to shift from employment to contract. What it does, though, is provide more certainty to offer people opportunities. You know, there are a range of different business types around New Zealand. Some people really like the stability of having an employee on hand with traditional hours, like you say, doing other things that might be reasonably expected of an employee. But other people do more project-based work or short-term work where they enjoy that flexibility. And we need to provide an economy that allows for both. You think of some people I've met over the last few months exploring this law. I've met a guy who does contract work on the side because he's trying to start up his own company and enjoys that flexibility of taking on more tasks when and if he can. or you've got some young parents who want to work around the flexibility of having kids and not necessarily wanting to turn up 9 to 5 every single day, but having an income on the side. I think it's really good where we can provide that certainty to people knowing exactly what they're signing up to.
All right. There are also a fair number of employment disputes that hinge on or are predicated on a misunderstanding or a disagreement over the perception as to whether someone is a contractor or an employee. Is this designed to end those sorts of disputes or to make it easier for outfits like the Employment Relations Authority to reach a rapid conclusion as to what the rights and obligations are and the nature of the relationship?
Yeah, I think what the outcome will be is that some disputes will be resolved much faster because of the new test. But ultimately, people can still go to the Employment Relations Authority or the Employment Court to challenge that they believe that they are an employee. However, when they get there, there'll be a new test that needs to be met, which says, did you know that you had signed an independent contract? And plus all of the other criteria in this gateway test. And if all 4 of those are met, then the person is a contractor. But if the business hasn't met all 4 of those tests, then the existing law would apply, which would look at what was the intent and, is there a balance between the control and independence of the person working and the business and the integration test. So the current test that would apply if the law hadn't changed.